We are starting class 8. Bill is almost there. He just arrived, so he will be in a moment. And meanwhile, we will finish the 22 qualities of a bodhisattva that we started at the last class. And they are not in homeworks. Don't get scared. But I think it's a great thing to know, and they are very cool. So we did 12 qualities. And the last one was you are becoming a wish-given jewel for other people. You make a special wish that in the future, when I will reach my total and matchless enlightenment, for example, let every person who will think about me become successful, or will get cured of the sickness, or will become totally happy, or will be able to reach Buddhahood himself. So you are becoming a wish-fulfilling jewel. Soon. So quality number 13 was you are like a sun. You have a special power. You help people to grow. Like people, they come to your class, or they just, maybe you just work your normal job and people work with you. And because they spend time with you, their spiritual capacities are growing. They're becoming better people. Just because you spend time with them, it changes them. Then quality number 14 is you can explain emptiness and seeds to people, and it is like a song. They want to listen to it. They understand it. They have the desire to learn more from you and from these teachings. And this is the best song. You are becoming like a song. Then 15, quality 15 is in Sanskrit nerpa. You're like a king. And it means that you have the power to know things that are hidden. Like you know everything, nobody can stop you, nothing is hidden. Kings of the past, they were more powerful than nowadays presidents, because they would own everything in their country. Like they could come in any house and it was their house, it was their property. Every person in the country, they could say, okay, I want to take your horse, your wife, your whatever, and it was their right to do so. So you are becoming like a powerful king who is unstoppable. And the reason why you're unstoppable, because you understand the emptiness and seeds, and you get your dreams are coming true because you know how to plant these seeds. Then 16 has a very fancy name, ganja in Sanskrit, but it's not marijuana. It is like a storehouse. You create assets, bank account, a huge bank account of your great seeds, like a treasury, super bank of your good seeds. And this bank will create your future Buddha mind and body. Quality number 17. You are at the great path, Mahamarga. You will get your 73 great qualities of the Buddha, and other people will be able to use your 37 great qualities to get their results also. 18, Yana. Yana is an ancient word for a vehicle, like something moving, transport. So you will be a vehicle for other people, meaning that because of your great compassion, karuna in Sanskrit, you will be caring, you will be serving other people. And the only motivation will be love. Quality number 19 is, in Sanskrit, it is a word for spring, like a stream, like a stream or spring. And it is, personally, I really love this one because it means that if you will meditate a lot, you will remember all the teachings you have ever gotten. Like my husband, he says when he was in his 3-year retreat, he was able to get back all the memories of his childhood, like things that were very important for him and he forgot. And in the same way, we can get access to all the teachings you have ever heard. So even you are not listening attentively sometimes, you can get all these memories back. It is very cool because then you are really helpful for other people, because it is not that you just have something, a little bit of knowledge, but you have a lot. You can remember all the teachings from this life and from previous lives also. And you can explain, no problem, almost any point of these teachings. Because you have this access to your subconsciousness, let's say. Quality number 20, you are super happy because you are like a musical instrument. Because you become so happy, everybody wants to hear you. And sometimes maybe it does not mean that you will say only positive things to people, right? Like this last 2 classes about renunciation, not everybody is happy to hear that, you have to get old and die, but it's true. And in this case, from this perspective, people finally will be relieved that they hear something that is really true from you. Even it does not have to be music in a sense, or that you will only say pleasant things to people. Sometimes you will not say pleasant things, but they are useful. Okay, 2 more left. I hope my husband will come over. 21, you are becoming like a river, and you do not criticize any other teachings, because you know that all rivers, they come to the ocean, and any teaching of another religious path, if they teach, Привет. Any teaching that is from other religious paths, they're also powerful for some people if they follow them, especially if they teach ethics, right? And the last one is Megak. It's in Sanskrit, it's a cloud. You are becoming like a rain of teachings for other people. Okay, that's it. So class 7 was related to advertising of bodhicitta, and now Bill will teach you how to reach bodhicitta.
5-minute break and then I'll teach.
You need 5-minute break?
5-minute break, yep.
Okay, but we just started 10 minutes ago.
That's fine.
Okay, then we do 5 minutes break, and then we will be back. That was the leftover of class 7. Don't forget to speak slowly.
All right. Okay, so today's class is class number 8. It's on how to achieve bodhicitta. And I listened to Geshe-la's old classes. He did 2 of them. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is that, come on, almost 30 years ago now, when he taught them the first time, there was lots of technical stuff, lots of, it was more academic, very Tibetan, very monastic. Then he retaught them, what, about 10 years ago now?
2019.
Was it 19? Was it just 4 years ago?
I think so.
And he was much better at explaining it in terms that people in the modern world, in a modern Western world, would actually find useful. So it was interesting to see his teaching skills develop over time. So if you can listen to him in English, I highly recommend that you do that. They're good. And listening's better than the transcripts. The transcripts are awkward because of the verbal pauses and things that are in there. So if you can listen to them, I highly recommend it. And he starts off, so like bodhicitta, right? Like the idea that you're going to achieve enlightenment for the sake of every living being. It really kind of hinges on whether or not you think you're going to keep living after this lifetime, right? And so he went through a discussion, and it was really one of the more useful topics in all of this, like in all of the 18 ACI courses. The idea of why your mind might continue on, like why your mind is separate from your body, was one of the more useful topics in all the ACI courses. And because it changes what you're going to do, right? If your mind, if your consciousness stops when your body stops, you can make a better case for living an ordinary worldly life. If your mind continues on after your body stops, that's then it raises the question, okay, well, now what, right? Like, what do I do with that? If I'm going to have to keep experiencing things after my body stops, well, what does that look like? What do you do with that piece of knowledge? And I was pretty resistant to it in my 20s. I was not interested in, like a chance, right? Like, you have to live this life, right? You have a body now. You're on this planet. And so then, okay, we'll deal with that. But if my mind's going to continue on, well, maybe, if it's a maybe my mind's going to continue on, then, I'll deal with that when that comes later. But if you know for sure it's going to happen, well, okay. Or if you're pretty sure it's going to happen, well, that changes things, right? Because this life's pretty short. The amount of time on the other side of this life is potentially infinite. So then what, right? Like, then what to do with all of that? And just for me, on a personal note, I think what really changed my mind about it was there was a lady that I knew, and she was the mother of my childhood friend, my best childhood friend. And when I met her, I remember she was sick, lying on the sofa. I was 12 years old. And she'd just gotten back from a surgery, and she'd almost died after that surgery. And, you're 12. You don't think too much about it. I mean, she was old, probably in her 30s. And old people get sick, right? And then I ended up being really close with that lady and their family. And when I was in my late 20s, she told me about an experience she'd had that she told me about a near-death experience that she'd had. She had that just before I'd met her, the 2 weeks before I'd met her, she'd actually died and went to heaven and came back. And so then I'd heard of people who'd had these near-death experiences before. It had been getting some attention. But then, you don't know what, and people write books, all kinds of things in books, right? But when you meet somebody that you trust, because I'd known her for 15 years by the time she told me her story, and it was obvious. It was obvious that she was telling the truth. She had no other motivation. Like, oh, okay, well, now what do I do with that? Somebody I love and trust is telling me that they died, went to heaven, and came back. Okay, what do you do with that, right? And then you read a bit. There's millions of people have had that experience. It's actually pretty common, the near-death experience. And it's not just that experience. And this is all going to tie back into bodhicitta that you'll see in a minute. It's not just that experience. Like, people have all kinds of experiences that are somehow different than what a conventional worldview, like where conventional science, my son studied neuroscience, and in his classes, he would send me one of the scientific articles and we'd read them. And it's interesting because in these formal, high level, intelligent people wrote them. Intelligent. And they would just assume in the article right from the start that your consciousness is being produced by your brain. They just assume it right from the start. And it would be a little shocking, right? It's like, well, have you guys proven that? I mean, certainly the way we see the world is affected by our brain, but whether or not your consciousness is produced by the brain, that's an entirely different subject. And they're just assuming it through the whole article. I'd be like, well, look, they're just, they're acting like this has been proven, and it hasn't. And then you talk to people, it's not unusual for somebody to have an experience like my friend's mother, who had the near-death experience, where her consciousness was someplace where her body wasn't. And that can't happen, right? If the brain's producing your consciousness. And lots of people have had lots of experience like that, particularly if you're around meditators, like people who've really been able to reach high levels of meditation, and they're gaining better control over their mind. And then when they do that, all kinds of things start happening, because they're not really, they're getting beyond the limitations that they thought they'd set for themselves. And I believe Ina was talking about past lives earlier. Near-Lengigyu. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Near-Lengigyu a bit more also.
Material cause.
Yeah. And so you're around meditators and you'll see them do things. There's no way in the world they could do it if your consciousness was being produced by your mind. I mean, but if your consciousness was being produced by your brain, if your brain was producing your mind, right? It's two different things, your mind and your body. I mean, frankly, it's not even close. They're two different things. And it's not just me or Tibetan meditators. I mean, this book, I've shown it to people before. Some of you, if you were at Miljonas Babirki, this is a group out of the University of Virginia, and I don't think it's particularly surprising that they came out of the University of Virginia, because that's one of the places where Tibetan Buddhism first got its start. But what they've done here, it's a group of academics. How many chapters? Like 20, 25 chapters of different ways in which
contradiction.
It contradicts the idea that thank you. The way it contradicts the idea that your consciousness is being produced by your brain, that your mind is being produced by your body. And frankly, it gets ignored because it's uncomfortable, right? People don't know what to do with it. Because then if your mind is not the same thing as your body, well, that means it can continue on afterwards, which it will. And it's not just, this isn't just somebody telling you, like some old person from 2000 years ago saying, yeah, well, you're going to live after you die, right? There's clues in the modern world. I mean, a lot of them. And well, it's more than 1,000 pages, right? So then the question is, okay, so and then Ina looked at Nirlingyi Gyu, and the reason, do we need to discuss that? The material cause, how everything comes from a prior material cause?
We can briefly repeat it because it's a subject of ACI 4, so they will hear it after.
Yeah, it's really useful because everything comes from something similar, right? You get apples from an apple seed. Similar, right? I mean, you're not getting apples from a stone. And so everything in the world is like that, including your consciousness, which is coming from a prior moment of consciousness. And you believe that, right? Because that's why we go to school. You know that if you go to school and you plant something in your mind, it will change who you are in the future, right? Because the prior moment is changing the next moment. But it will also continue on after the body is done. And so then, so what? Well, then the question is, well, what's going to happen, right? And then you can look at it fairly logically, and it's going to be more of samsara. And some of the later classes will do a really great job of describing the whole range of things that can happen, right? But ups and downs. I think
6 different realms.
Yeah, six different realms, God realms and hell realms and things in between. Apparently, we're like right at the 50-50 point. Maybe just a little over 50-50. And pleasure and pain, enough pain that we want to get out, not so much that we're overwhelmed, enough pleasure that we're not being tortured all the time, but not so much pleasure that we don't want to get out. They say that it's actually a very
perfect,
perfect condition. Really
perfect ratio.
It's like Ken Rinpoche used to say that samsara has one good quality. It hurts. Yeah, because it hurts, you're motivated to get out, right? You're motivated to go do something better. And so then when you start thinking about it and like, oh my gosh, this could go on infinitely, right? Like it's not just going to be one life and I'm done and boy, wasn't that a mess. I'm glad it's over. Like, oh my God, what if this keeps going on, right? What if it gets worse? What if it gets better only to get worse? Which is what happens. It's like, I got to get out of this. Like I've got to get out of it altogether. And so, and then, but the thing is, it's not going to be enough just to get yourself out, right? You're not going to be able to, I mean, it ain't going to work. You're not going to be able to reach the highest levels of, you're not going to be able to go completely beyond suffering and reach enlightenment without wanting to do it for everybody else. And, you can just look at what they're seeing with the telescopes, right? Like countless universes, countless planets. And I mean, you'd have to be pretty stubborn not to see and acknowledge that they're probably countless beings. Like a number, countless is probably as good a name as you could put to it, because it's a number that would, if there was a finite number, if there was like a specific number, it'd be too big to wrap a human mind around it, right? So countless beings. So then and then if your actions are aimed at removing countless beings from suffering, well, then it's multiplied by that number of countless, right? Like the merit, the virtue. It's like, well, it becomes infinitely more powerful, countlessly more powerful. If you do it to say, if your actions are intended not to save just yourself from this cycle of up and down from samsara, but every living being. And so then there's two different ways to get there, right? Like, oh my gosh, yeah, so that's the idea, but like, how do I get there? And I remember that was one of the challenges for me with Christianity. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, I get it. I should be ethical. I should love my neighbor as I love myself. But how do I go from here to there? How do I go from being
selfish,
a selfish 20-something-year-old to a selfish 57-year-old? How do I get from here to there? But, maybe improve a little bit along the way, right?
He did.
A little. Shoot. Bullshit. Motion. Wait, but shoot. And so then there's two classical ways to get bodhicitta. The first way, this is hilarious, exchanging self and others.
Dakshin Nyamja.
Yeah. Dakshin Nyamja. Ina likes the Tibetan more than I do. And so exchanging self and others. And at first glance, when you first hear it, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's love your neighbor as you would love yourself. And that's not exactly it. I mean, that's part of it, right? I mean, because we'll talk, you may have heard people talk about 4 steps, which is something we'll cover later. But whenever you want something for yourself, there's 4 specific steps you can do for somebody else so that you can work cause and effect and get what you want. And so it'd be easy to say, okay, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Do the 4 steps. But that's not it. It's hilarious because it's harder than that. It's not give your neighbor what you want so you get what you want. It's look at who you are from your neighbor's perspective. Right? It's harder, right? Like
I remember when I first did it, you know what I was thinking?
What?
I was thinking, oh my God, fortunately, there are other people around me, not like me, better than me.
Yeah. So you're supposed to look back at yourself. And yeah, I'll tell you this. I had to get up at 3:00 in the morning
Today.
And I'm going through security. I'll shorten it. American securities, it's kind of ridiculous, but I ended up going through security, and I have a silverware set for eating when I'm traveling.
Silver.
A tableware, like a knife and a fork and a spoon,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and just a little camping set, and I'm going through, and they see it, and they run my bag back through, and they run back through. What do I don't have anything illegal. So they pull it out and they go, "Is this a knife?" You got to be kidding me. There's a butter knife in my bag. Cockpits, airline cockpits have to have an axe in them by regulation. They have a crash axe up there, big heavy thing. It's meant to chop through a door in case you're gonna have an accident. And so, I mean, besides the fact that I'm flying the aircraft, right? They want to talk to me about my butter knife. And then this lady,
he is flying this airplane.
Yeah,
he will be flying.
I'm in uniform. I'm going to fly the airplane. I'm going to be on the other side of a locked door with this crash axe. And they want to talk to me about a butter knife. It literally, like, you couldn't cut a steak with it. And so then, then they call the manager over, and it was hilarious. Like, well, the manager was like, did you go through the crew line first? And I'm like, yes. And I was like, it's just like, well, okay, now I'm gonna have to take your name because you tried to. And I was like, jeez. So they're taking my name, my ID, all that, and I'm like, nothing's gonna come of it, but just silliness on top of silliness. And frankly, I'm getting irritated. And it's tired. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm talking with people about a butter knife. And then I was thinking, okay, well, what does this look like to them? Because I was thinking about today's class. And, like having to sit there and look at this grumpy pilot at
wanting to violate rules everybody
knows.
knows.
Yeah. No respect for the rules, right? So anyway, it's harder, right? It's harder to look at yourself like that. I mean, or you could pick a worse moment, right? So anyway, yeah. So and obviously you can imagine looking at yourself, and so, but then it's helpful, right? Like if you look at yourself from the other person's perspective, it's like, oh, well, okay, maybe that doesn't look so pretty, like I'm just following the rules. I, I didn't decide to make butter knives illegal. This is my job. It's 4 a.m. for me also. Just 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 let's do this. So it helps. It helps, right? To look at yourself from somebody else's perspective. And then if you do that, I mean, if you can really do that, and there's a whole course based on it.
You will hear much more details in course 10 or 11. I don't remember exactly. 10 or 11.
Yeah, I mean, it gets quite dramatic, right? Like what would you do if if somebody you knew had fallen into, there's all kinds of examples you can go through. But like, what would you want? Like if you were looking back, like what would you want? And would you want help? I mean, I think all the time. There was a lady in the south side of Chicago, which is the poor part of Chicago, and she came over. She was an undocumented immigrant, and she was blind. had 2 kids. Her husband was beating her. And she was living in an attic, the top unfinished part of a house in the poor part of town, with her grandmother. And I don't laugh because it's funny. I laugh because it's just horrible, right? And so the husband left, and then what would you want, right? Like what would I want if I was in that situation? And then you're looking at somebody who's wealthy and has extra income and is fully capable, and be like, wow, a little bit of help, right? And the lady did get it. She had there was an organization that came and helped her. But I mean, the world's full of people like that, right? I mean, if you have the strength to help, what would you think if you were one of the people who needed help, legitimately needed it, and weren't getting it? And I go, okay, yeah, that person's there. That person's in my world. I need to help them. So exchanging self and others. So, and you'll hear more about it as we go on. But then, of course, that's for small things, right? And by small, I mean this lifetime. I mean, what about if you thought it was possible to get? What if you thought that it was possible to get out of suffering altogether? Then what? Then what do you do? We live in a world where that's not commonly known. What do you do then? I mean, I say commonly. Maybe everybody knows it. Maybe I'm just the last person figuring it out, which could be the case. But that's a different subject also. So anyway, the second way that people, so the first one's exchanging self and others. And the second one is Maitreya's 7-step process to reach bodhicitta.
Cause and result.
Cause and result.
In Tibetan, Gyundre Menyak Dun. Personal advice of achieving cause and results of 7 steps.
And Tibetans being Tibetan, 7 steps doesn't mean 7 steps. They love to tack extra stuff on. It starts with equanimity.
0.
Yeah, it starts with stage 0. And equanimity. This is something that I think people, you'll see it. I don't know if it's really so much anymore, because but 20 years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, it'd be quite common. You'd be reading something about Buddhism, and they would talk about equanimity as if it meant that you weren't supposed to have any feelings, right? Like, oh, boy, this is horrible, but I'm just going to have equanimity, and I'm just going to feel nothing, or
pretend.
I'm going to pretend. Yeah, I'm going to pretend that nothing's happening. And so, and I know you guys talked about the 8 worldly thoughts already, right? Mm-hmm. So, it's not that you're not supposed to be happy, and it's not that things don't hurt when they do. The 8 worldly thoughts are just don't overreact to them, right? Or act wrongly. It's not that you don't want a good result. Of course you want a good result, right? For yourself and for everybody else. But so with equanimity, it's one of those very wrong Dharma ideas that you're not supposed to feel anything. That's not the goal of Buddhism, is to feel nothing. Whether the goal is with equanimity is to realize that everybody has an equal right to happiness that you do. Everybody's the same. Everybody wants to be free from suffering. Everybody wants to be loved, to have the good things. And that doesn't make a difference whether they're hurting other people and themselves now, or whether they're doing good things. Everybody wants that. And then, even if people are doing things that are hurting other people now, it's coming out of ignorance. If they knew what they were doing to themselves in the future, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. So in a way, when you see somebody acting particularly cruelly, it's worse for them than what it will be for the person who's on the receiving end, because a person on the receiving end is getting like one event. They're creating for themselves something that will be 1,000 times worse. And but everybody's the same. And Geshe doesn't talk about the emptiness of the mind, but we all, our minds all share the same emptiness. And whether you're a Buddha or a human, and it's ignorance. The difference between a human and a Buddha is ignorance, right? And so everybody has an equal right to happiness. Everybody wants to get out of samsara equally, whether they realize it or not. So you start with that. And then the first step is that, and this is part of the reason why we talked about near-legged use before, is that you go back and your previous moment of mind, your mind now is the result of a previous moment of mind. And that moment was the result of a moment before it, which was the result of a moment before it, which goes back beginningless. It's beginningless. And boy, that bothered me for a long time. The idea that my past was beginningless. And to be honest, I don't know that I still fully comprehend that. But it's not a deal breaker for me in this philosophy, and it doesn't have to be, because I can see that I'm going forward, and I think it's possible to get out. But I think someday I will understand it in a way that does make sense. I think it will make sense someday. But so then the question becomes, well, if I've lived countless past lives, right, then you would have been pretty much everywhere and everything at all times, or at some time. And the people around you would have changed their relationship to you also, right? I mean, you can see that inside of one lifetime, right? Friends become enemies. I think one of the more hilarious examples in our family is that my father-in-law, Ina's dad, is well, maybe I shouldn't say this. Well, okay, I'll go ahead. It's too late now. He's a veteran of the Soviet military. And I'm a veteran of the United States military. I served during the Cold War. I served when Russia was the enemy, when the Soviet Union was the enemy. And my father-in-law is Ukrainian. And so the Russians started bombing the Ukrainians. And the United States veteran saved Soviet veteran from Russian bombs, right?
If this is not funny, I don't know what is funny.
Well, right, yeah. Like, right, it's like hilarious in the sense that comedy comes out of tragedy, and certainly not what we would have expected to happen 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But that's samsara, right? People's relationships change. And I think if you're over 30, you've seen it more than once. But then, so for better or for worse, right? And so they're going to say that at some point, given enough time, every living being would have been your mother. Uh, uh,
Something.
please do.
Actually, because we had countless lifetimes, we've been to everybody. And not only mothers, but including mothers.
Yeah. You would have been everything: friends, lovers, brothers, sisters, enemies. But they're going to, king and slave, and disinterested next door neighbor. uh, but they're going to focus on the time that person would have been your mother, and then the kindness. So they're going to recognize everybody was your mother at some point in the past. Is Maitriya's first step.
And step number 0 is everybody is equally deserves to be happy.
Yeah, everybody equally deserves to be happy is step 0, equanimity. Everybody was your mother in the past, step 1.
Masha.
Yeah. And then the second step is remember their kindness, right? I think lots of people here will have been parents, mothers. Certainly everybody had a mother. And it's pretty extraordinary, right? Like I was in the hospital room for both of my children's births. And it's pretty dramatic if you haven't seen it firsthand. The bottom half of a mother just explodes. And it like literally just splits open, and this child comes out that looks like a frog, and it's covered with all kinds of, like the inside of your wife, like organs and things. It's pretty grisly, right? And then they take the lady and they stitch her back up because she's literally been ripped apart down below in order to bring this person into the world. And then all the mom wants to do, I mean, she can barely function, right? All she wants to do is hold the new baby because she's so happy that the new baby is there. It's a pretty big act of love, right? I mean, that mom really, really, really loves a child. And they put that child's needs ahead of them first, right? It's pretty extraordinary. And people, it's not that moms are perfect, but if they kept you alive, if they fed you, I mean, the kind of care that a child takes. It's 24 hours a day. They get up in the middle of the night. I mean, they literally for years can't do anything for themselves. The mom has to do it for them all. And dads are considered heroes if they step in. Oh, my husband's with the kid this afternoon. And so, I mean, just simply if you're alive, right? It took a tremendous amount of selfless love to get a child there. And they're saying that everybody's done that for you at some point. And that person is, stuck in some sorrow. And so that's the second step.
Trindan, I want to say something.
Please do. Being a mom, you're qualified.
Yeah, I definitely qualify. In the Western world, because the main religion of the Western world is, guess what?
Christianity.
Of course, nope. Science.
Oh, okay, there you go. Money or science. Yeah, that's a better.
Science and
We're talking about true religions.
Yeah, science, according to science, you were nothing. Then there was a conception, two cells came together, and Bill was born. In 9 months, Ina was born. And so they don't go earlier. Like the conception is the earliest that you can get when you work with any, conception probably is too early. Birth or slightly before the birth is where you can get with the cycle. And then people, they try to understand their issues. They work with psychotherapists, and the earliest they can get is somewhere, after they were born, some first memories, obviously with their parents, because there's nobody else there. And then they make a totally wrong assumption that it is because of their parents. Like there are all kinds of smart words, like the imprint was made in you. And I think children nowadays in Western countries sometimes have difficult time to realize how much parents have done to them unless they start to have their own children. And in Indian and Tibetan culture, like the relationship in families were quite rough. I mean, I think in our society we would say that parents could be cruel to their children.
Mm.
And they would really stop all the talks about, or my mom once told me something, or my father didn't respect me, or blah, blah, blah. They would say, wait a moment, who gave you your body?
Mm.
Your mom and dad? That's it. This is why you have to respect them, and they are, if you do not have a spiritual teacher, they say they are the highest karmic objects for this lifetime.
Because you can get enlightened. They gave you the body, the human life that you need, and supported you in that human life.
Even if they don't, even the body itself is enough, they say.
But you can use that to get enlightened, right? Like you can finally, out of this endless cycle of past lives, you can finally get out, but only because of the kindness of your mother, right? Yeah. Without that, you would have died within days.
This is to say that kindness of your mother is your mother is qualified if you are alive. That's it. Then you have to think that she was very kind.
One of my I won't say this person's name, but when I was in college, near the end of college, one of my old classmates sat down and calculated how much his parents owed him, and he gave him he told him, well, you owe me this much money. He was graduating college, but somehow he'd figured out that they owed him, right? This was like a 20-year-old man. But we don't want to be like that.
Because he was doing what?
I can't tell you what reason he used, but we all laughed that he had sat down and had a talk with his parents about how much money they owed him.
I bet there was another bill after that his parents said.
So, but yeah, he figured that they owed him money. Or so anyway.
Okay.
So that's so okay. So your parents have been kind to you. Then the third step, you have to repay the kindness of your mother, right? And it's not like my mom is 83, and so I can't go to her and say, well, that was 57 years ago, doesn't count anymore. I'm done. You're on your own. No, you still have an obligation, right? And uh, and they're going to say that, okay, so then will the obligation continue on? At what point does it stop? They're just going to say it never stops, right? Like they did that for you. Forget about the bad stuff, remember the good stuff, and you know mm, decide that you're going to repay the kindness, right? Because you weren't able to do it as a son or a daughter. You can't repay that level of kindness, right? You can't do it. And so you're gonna decide that you're gonna repay the kindness.
Mhm.
Do you have anything else to add on that one?
Yeah, I think it is important to remember that we are talking now about every living being, that we think that because we had this countless lifetimes, every living being was our mother before. And I had also like Bill, it was very funny because I was thinking, oh, thanks God, he will be teaching this subject. I had difficulties with like to wrap my mind around these 7 steps. And he said, oh boy, really? I have to teach it. Because the reason why it is like strange to hear and difficult to do, because we are so far away from this feeling of bodhicitta. It would not be difficult if we would be close. And there was something that really helped me with these ideas is the fact that I am a mom myself. I have my son. I think because these teachings, they were designed primarily for monks and nuns who were not supposed to have children, but all of them, they definitely were somebody's sons and daughters. So they definitely would have a mother, but they might not have children. So you can revert it like just for yourself, to see how it will look if you will think, if you will imagine that you have your child and you love your child, right? And then think if you will get older, like many years will pass, like 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, pretending you're still alive. Like at which moment you will stop loving your child? Maybe you will lose your memory. Maybe there will be another lifetime. Does it mean that you stopped to be a mother for your child? So I think this is something that can help you to understand the idea behind it. Imagine that all your mothers, they still remember that you are their child. Okay. Step 4.
And so then the next step is you're going to generate the same love for your mother that she had. And this is interesting because the next step is compassion. And so love is the desire to give somebody good things, right? You want to see them be happy. Compassion is similar but different. It's the desire to take away their pain. And so normally they talk about compassion coming first, right? Like if somebody if a child has fallen off his bicycle and skinned his knee, he's not real interested in ice cream at that moment. He's he's in pain, right? He's bleeding, and so he's more interested in the he's more interested in the suffering being removed at that moment than what he is in like getting a piece of candy. And so normally they talk about compassion coming first and then love, but in this order, in our school, they're presenting love first. And I think I mean, honestly, I think they're doing it so that we have to discuss the difference between the two.
Yeah, and we will do it right away.
Yeah.
Because when you mention that a child fall off the bicycle, you don't say your enemy fall off. You don't say you agent this morning fall off the bicycle.
Yeah.
Security agent.
Well, actually, I think I was the one who fell off the bicycle, and I was mad. wanted to push the TSA agent off her bicycle.
Anyway, so I mean, be ready in these teachings, particularly why I love them so much. Most often, the way you grow, like your spiritual growth, is when you understand how things that are contradictory are actually not contradictory. So here we have a discussion. Bill thinks that first you should clean the wound, you know, like, and I don't know, do you have in your countries like you should blow, you know, to stop the pain in a child?
Yeah. Kiss and make it better than
kiss and make it better, yeah, obviously. So first stop suffering, then give a candy, right? Give love. But the reason why they inverted it here, because they want to think you to think that actually in order to stop somebody's suffering, you need to love this person. This is why. So this is why he said, imagine a child like William, for example, his kid, right? That he remembers he was riding a bicycle. Or imagine my son, Andrei, or Claire, or whoever, like, you already presume that you love your child. This is why. So love comes first, right? ENG jumper. This is why. So
love.
Basically, both are correct. And the step 5, Bill told you, is Ninja Chenpo, great compassion.
Great compassion. Yeah, and so great compassion. This is you want to see them get all the way out of suffering, right? Like not just the suffering of this lifetime. Not you know, we need a house. You know, you need shelter and food, someplace to, you know, transportation, medical care. I mean, you need things in this lifetime, but we're thinking bigger than that, right? Like great compassion to get all the way out of suffering, to reach enlightenment themselves. And anything more to add on that one?
Yeah, I do. I was asking when I remember I came to ACI classes for the first time. I was interested to know like how I will know that I reached renunciation. How I will know that I have bodhicitta. I mean, renunciation is easy, right? You just think about it day and night. You think, oh my God, it's a trap. I'm trapped in this life. I didn't want to come here. Somehow I ended up here. I really want to get out. It's a trap. Everybody dies here, really. It's a bad place to stay. And then I was wondering how I will know that I really have this compassion. I mean, or at the very least, I'm coming closer. And it was a big deal for me, the equanimity stuff. I think this is what is difficult for most of us because we tend to love people who love us and hate TSA agents, irritating people.
If you fly in first class, they'll literally hand you a metal knife back, just like a butter knife.
Yeah, so it was a big deal. And I heard that once a phrase that really helped me to see, am I really growing in these realizations, you know? And the phrase was that you will really understand, you will really feel compassion when you will feel, what to say? Let's say equanimity. It will be closer to the truth. When you will feel the same exact compassion to a person who is dying from the cancer right now, or to a person who is driving a brand new Lamborghini, you know, in the street. Like, if you understand that both of them are in equal trouble, exactly equal trouble, maybe even a person dying from cancer is in a better place if they have compassion in their mind, then it means that you really get the teachings. This is the equanimity in your mind. Then you are very close to this step 4, compassion.
Yeah, like your worldview starts expanding, right? Like
and you will get there. I remember I first heard about it. Never ever nobody will think that they are in equal conditions. Like the guy's driving a brand new Lamborghini and the lady is dying from cancer. Nobody knows who is in better condition, honestly. Probably not the way you think.
Yeah.
Okay, step 5. And okay, we did it.
Yeah.
Step 6.
It's
My favorite one.
Yeah, this is one of those things. Yeah, you just have to decide you're going to do it, right? You can't wait for anybody else. Nobody, because of cause and effect, nobody else is going to do it for you, right? We all have to do it. We all have to be the person who saves our own world, and you'll get help once you start. Maybe we're already getting help now. It'll get more obvious once you do start.
I have seen, I was translating McMichael translator's class, Schwanz and Tower class now, and I have seen somebody wrote something that I didn't realize, like, I am translating these teachings, McMichael classes, everything that McMichael produces for almost 10 years, less than 10, 9.5. And I didn't realize that what one person wrote just 1 hour ago, that Ina is translating McMichael into Russian, sometimes into Ukrainian, and then they have translators for 10 languages for their ACI classes. And I think this is the kind of help that you will get. But first, you should not count that you will be helped. I think this is very important because the help will be unexpected, sometimes very helpful, sometimes not helpful, totally depending on the help you are doing for other people. But I think the best description is that the world that you see around you is your volume of work. So if you see something, end results of your work, if you see something that you like, good job. If you see something you do not like, my son's manager was saying, work faster, work harder. I really loved it. So it means there is a still way for improvement.
Mhm.
You have anything to add to this point?
No, you just have to decide. It's the only way you're going to save yourself too. You have to decide to help everyone, and you're not going to leave anybody out.
At some point, you come to a conclusion that, oh my God, now I understand that this is a superhero movie. I'm a weak superhero so far. I need to get better, to be better trained, to get more superpowers. And understanding of seeds and emptiness is, by the way, your superpower. And nobody else will save this world. I have to do it myself, even if I will have to do it on my own, because everything comes from my seeds. I'm creating this world, basically.
But seeds grow, so you can get more help than what you would imagine. All right, ready? Number 7. Kind of. So then the last one is full-blown bodhicitta. Then you decide, well, how am I going to help people, right? Like how? I mean, we've discussed this already. There's only one way you can really help people, because as an ordinary human being, I mean, I can make a meal, I can provide shelter, but that's just a little bit of comfort on a boat that's sinking, right? Sinking and the water's mighty cold. And so we've got to get off this boat that's sinking before we're all stuck in the ice cold water. And then there's nothing you can do about it at that point. So you've got to get all the way out of suffering. You've got to reach enlightenment. And then when you're enlightened, there's some debate about how, do other people get enlightened first and then you get enlightened, or do you all go at once, or do you go first? One way or another, as an enlightened being, you're beyond time, and you're not all powerful, right? But you're omniscient. You know everything. And if you knew everything, you could help people a heck of a lot better.
And by know everything, you know exactly what will help to whom.
Yeah.
Like the exact tools that will be helpful.
Yeah.
Including, for example, how to teach people that do not yet feel this blissful, omniscient body of light and cannot jump from the planet to planet.
Yeah.
Even they don't have to jump much.
We'll talk more about what it means to be fully enlightened, to be a Buddha. And then remember, it's synonymous, right? Enlightenment and Buddhahood are the same thing. So yeah, that's how you're going to save people in a way that really matters, right?
Yeah, and there is a reason. Probably you may get to the point you will realize that all the teachings that are coming to you are not random teachings. That they are for you. That they are exactly what you need, you personally.
As you go on, you'll see some extraordinary proof of that there was a plan when you didn't even know there was a plan. So these are conclusion. These are really big ideas, like material cause, equanimity, bodhicitta,
Exchange myself with others.
exchanging self and others. Huge ideas. Like it.
Oh, something else that I forgot about these ideas about mother, because McMichael says that in the US people they can ask difficult questions. And they asked, but if all of them they were my mothers, all of them they killed me also countless times.
Don't worry about it. If you want more suffering, you go back and punish them for killing you.
Is it true? Honestly, it's true.
Mhm.
But it doesn't help you to get enlightened.
Mhm.
So better think about them as their mothers if you want to bring happiness to yourself and to other living beings.
Yeah, you'll, because of the multiplier effect, you'll never, just forgive them.
Because probably you also killed them many times.
Just, it's all been a big ignorant mess. Just forgive them and get the heck out of here. So, please do the meditations. Please do the homework. These are, most people will sit with these ideas for years, decades, figure out the meaning for them. But please do the work so that it gets in your head and so that you retain it. Very, very powerful ideas. Very powerful.
Okay, so see you tomorrow. We have 2 more classes, my favorite classes. And we will talk with Bill, and we will tell you tomorrow the date of the next ACI course. ACI 1 is easy. You will get it done quickly, and we will help you. There will be groups.
But it's profound. It's really, really, really profound, right? Like these, I had forgotten exactly what was in ACI course 1, and these are really just some life-changing
ideas.
Yeah, life-changing ideas for the better, right?
Yeah. Okay, so tomorrow we will tell you the dates for the ACI 2, which is also one of my favorite ones. And thank you very much for your participation. Thank you, volunteers. Thank you, all our extraordinary translators. We try to speak slowly, honestly. I tried to pinch him when he speaks
I did better than her today.
Yeah. Thank you and see you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Пока-пока.